Oh, actually, this could be a great place to start. You received a guitar from your siblings at the young age of 14, and you remember that quite clearly. You even remember the smell. Can you tell me what was going on at that time in your life and how exciting it was?
Well, I was starting to get very disinterested with school. I think that's happened actually like way before that.
Yep.
Um, I think that started around grade 7, yeah, year 7, and the kind of transition from primary school to high school was, yeah. I mean, I was earnestly trying to kind of toe the line, as they say, but I really started. I think it was around the time that I got that guitar for Christmas. I saw a band play a free concert. It's the Supreme Court Gardens, which is kind of like this foreshore park where,
Mm.
funny enough, my mum and dad used to take us for like orchestral performances, because they always had these free concerts on. So we,
Cool.
when we were younger. So, but
Yeah, that's awesome.
I was, I don't know what I was doing. I think I might have been in town, just shit kicking around and you know hanging at the bus station as we used to, or maybe we'd gone skating or something. And anyway, I caught wind of this thing on and made it over there, and it was a band called the Boys, and they were just about to explode with a hit single that was going to be, you know, a big thing for them. And they were like 16, 17, and I was like, they're not much older than me. And
Wow.
they were up there doing it. Two brothers in the band. And it's funny. I bumped into, like, at the gig, I bumped into, I think was a violist
Oh,
from
what? Sorry?
a violist.
Oh, violist. I thought,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Or maybe he was a cellist as well. So I was playing cello. Um, every Saturday I would go and play with the WA Symphony youth orchestra,
Oh, nice.
and I was still, doing that. And I bumped into him, and he was like looking at me, going, "Yeah, man." He was like, "These guitars," or so he said something along the line. I was like, "This looks like way more fun, than what we're doing."
Yeah.
In a kind of a joking, funny way. But it was like, I'll never forget. It was like, "Yeah, we should get some guitars," and um, I mean, it's at no point did I sort of just go, I don't want to do the cello anymore. It just was like, I just wanted a guitar. And
Mm.
the cello has remained a thing in my life still, to this day. I still use it and play it on my records and other people's records and stuff. So
Cool.
yeah, I knew that the orchestral life for me wasn't wasn't going to be it. I wanted to, like, plug in and use an amp and get loud, and I wanted guitar. I just wanted that sound. Um, I did have a bass. My other brother, older, had gone to Europe and left a bass. So I was getting close. I had the cello, I had a bass, I had an amp.
Nice.
And so I was getting toys, and was like, this is fun. So I played along to records, learning as much bass as I could, and then the guitar just slotted into that, like, part of my whole can. And that's why I still play a lot of bass. And I play bass on many of my records.
Awesome.
And yeah, bass is kind of like, whereas I think it's kind of a common saying, like that guitar players and or drummers maybe say, or maybe bass players, I don't know, but just in the music industry, it's like kind of like, oh, guitar players, they're the worst bass players. And there is some truth in that, because they don't, yeah, like playing guitar, the approach to guitar and the approach to bass are very different. And
Is that a mental thing?
I think it's a feel thing. I think your job as a bass player, or you like to kind of write the subtext, is it's just different to guitar. You can't just sort of go, well, my hands are like, they know what they're doing and they know where they're going and everything. It's like, yeah, that's a good start. But bass playing is a totally different um kind of approach. Like, you've got to, it's really hard to put into like just one phrase, but it's making that instrument work is like a lot of the stuff you do with guitar does not apply. It's
Interesting.
a whole nother thing. And you have to spend time with it. I think it comes down to that thing of like they say the 10,000 hours thing.
Yeah.
So, even though it should be just, well, those four strings are on the guitar, aren't they? Yes. But they're just an octave down lower. Yes. So it's really relative. Yes. But it's, making every note sound fat, making it fit really well with the drums. That's just an art form in itself,
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you want to be able to like, just consistency is really the thing. It's like, no lumps, no kind of like what happened there. The ass just fell out of it. Like, you've got to, yeah, you've got to work that thing like any instrument. So it comes down to 10,000 hours, or at least
Yeah.
five, at least 5,000.
Oh, okay. Very interesting. And do you think from seeing that band, that's what got you into the guitar naturally, or do you think you would have got there
I was
eventually?
into it already, but that just fueled me up so bad that it was like, damn, they're only a couple of years older than me and they're doing it.
Yeah.
Look at them with their like Converse sneakers on and their blue jean, like tight blue jeans and their little stripy t-shirts and their leather jackets. They look like the Ramones. They look like they had the Ramones vibe down pat.
Yeah.
And they were playing like Les Pauls and SGs and Marshalls. It was like, doesn't get much cooler, like it was really like aesthetically like, yes, that looks like rock. And they sounded like a rock band, two guitars just playing perfectly together, like a Malcolm and Angus Young kind of vibe. But it
Wow.
was like power pop, because that's kind of what they were doing. It was like this real like pop on steroids, kind of like power pop.
How crazy at such a young age. I know you were doing it at a young age, but when you see someone just slightly older than you, is that the motivation or the inspiration that you have? Because when you first start
Hell
out,
yeah. I mean, I think the monkey see, monkey do thing is such a
oh
big
yeah,
part of it. Like I can't encourage enough to like just go and watch people. Like I know we're sort of we live in an age, the accessibility to like, YouTube, unbelievable. It's incredible what you can watch, but
yeah,
I don't think that quite matches like being in a room and the
definitely.
whole experience of like feeling the energy of somebody or the crowd or just that energy that happens when you're actually when it's real in real life, IRL. So yeah, watch all the YouTube things you want, but go and watch people play. Go and listen to how they're getting their sounds. Yeah, that I mean, I would do that a lot, and when I was just starting, I would just go and watch other people, and then I'd go home and try to like, what were they doing? Try to pick up the guitar and
Oh,
replicate some of
amazing.
it before I'd fall asleep. Like you try to recap on a lesson. Like if you were, it's like going to college or like you've just sat through a lecture and now you're going to go home and do the notes on it. Like you can learn so much from watching and ultimately just playing with other people, like
Yeah,
just jamming, just like just trying things and listening. I think, if I had to stress one thing, like if I had to only pick one thing that's going to help you, it would have to be listen.
oh, great.
Just listen to the other person. I like, of course, spend time on what you are doing, but if you can't listen and then respond to that, because it really is a language and it's really important that you're able to hear what someone else is doing and just call and response.
Yeah.
And the subtlety of that in any kind of combo, whether it's two people, three people, anything more than one person, basically. I mean, I'm kind of jamming with myself when I do solo shows. I'll do something and go, oh, okay, and then from that it'll make me do something else.
Oh,
So
like so you're quite intuitive.
well, yeah. I mean, when you're in that flow state,
Ooh. Can
it's
you?
nice to be able to listen to yourself and feed off yourself. And when you can't so much, it's usually because you are preoccupied thinking about,
Yeah.
you know, like, oh, I've got to pay that bill next week or something that comes into your head. It's like, go away. Thankfully that doesn't happen too much, but yeah, sometimes those annoying little thoughts come in,
Yeah. You're
and
human.
yeah, like you start second guessing and start doubting yourself, all of that. Yeah, I mean, you can't be completely bulletproof all the time, but That's definitely the goal. That's definitely the goal, is just to be in that flow state all the time.
Okay, I've got so many questions on this. Flow state is one of my most favorite topics. Can you explain what that means to be in flow state for you? Like that
Yeah,
feeling?
well, I mean, I can tell you what my apparatus, um, look, as a child, I would get into that flow state, and when I started on the cello, I was just hours and hours of just playing and listening to what the thing was doing, and like, okay, looking at the dots on the page, yeah, okay, but I would drift off, and I was told often by conductors, it's like, you're not reading what's on the page, and I'll be like, oh, okay, you got me. Once you've heard it once, you sort of go, I know what this is doing, and I would just sort of, I would improv a little bit, I have to admit, which is probably pretty naughty. And then, when I got into the guitar, I'll never forget, like, I would get so kind of like hyper focused that it's embarrassing to say, but I'd be sitting there on my bed, just like going over and over and over, like trying things, playing, listening, playing, and I would like literally like drool out my mouth onto the guitar, and, and my brother would say, "You're drooling again," and I've talked to a couple of guitar players, and it's a kind of a bit of a very in guitar player joke. It's like the 12th fret. That's like the 12th fret is about midway up the guitar, and it's like the 12th fret drool. But as I kind of became out of puberty, I've learned to control the drool, thankfully. But that was the beginning of me sort of like learning what the flow state is, about, and well, not that I was thinking about, what flow state is, but
Oh,
fast forward, and nerves now are coming into play because you're about to play in front of people. And so, that's alcohol, which is kind of omnipresent. And let's just say, um, I don't think there's many musicians that can say like that, oh, I've never come across alcohol in my workplace. It's like, it's just,
yeah, it's very prevalent.
it just still is, and
Yeah.
it's just part of this. I think Australia, especially, is a very kind of alcohol centric kind of country. But
Yep, definitely.
growing up, I was, clearly not even of age to play in pubs, but I started playing in pubs. So then I would be like, okay, oh, is this what you do? You have a drink, and then you kind of calms the nerves, and then you get in, and that was my way of getting into like some kind of flow state. Um,
Ah, so you could get into it even if you drank or you didn't drink.
well, I mean, I thought I was improving myself by doing that.
Yeah.
And I guess that lasted what, like, actually, when I think about it, well, yeah, I mean, I guess about 15 years of that. And so fast forward to like 2001, and I just decided that um, through like a few experiences of just thinking this is a bad combo, alcohol and adrenaline, because that's the
Yeah.
other thing that you rely on. I haven't drunk at a gig since then, so literally have not combined the two.
Oh,
But
wow.
that was always like a kind of a kind of a yeah, and a go-to MO to kind of get into that. All right, I'm at the gigs. What do I need? Oh, I need some vodka. That'll
Mm.
get me into that. But with that comes the crash, the sugar dump,
Yep.
the then
The down.
the kind of anything that possibly kind of can go wrong, like technically, or someone gets, lippy in the crowd and starts abusing or heckling, as they say. And if you're, the combination of alcohol and adrenaline is like nitro. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
So, I mean, adrenaline alone is crazy. Like
That
what,
dump. The
and
dump. Mm.
yeah. But now if I come off like annoyed or something, like, oh, damn, that, something went wrong, like something broke. I feel embarrassed. I'm angry. And then it's just like, oh, let's just let go. It's like, it just seems silly to hang on to it.
Yeah.
Where the alcohol would like exacerbate it, and would just make it go on and on way too long. Turn, as they say, a mountain out of a molehill.
Yeah. Well,
So,
that's, I know
and
you.
my band would like, after a few years passed, they were like, you know, used to throw like furniture around and stuff. And like, I'm like, yeah, I know. I mean, they were kind of really respectful about it. But they got to know me, the sober me at the gigs, they were like, boy, we much prefer that. And, it used to be kind of scary when you came off and if something went wrong and you'd grab a chair and just throw it and stuff. And, it makes me like, I shudder to think what might have happened, with that chair, like if it hit somebody. So,
That's
yeah.
It's huge self-awareness and growth by you, and also to rely on something. You think you are, succeeding in one way, then realizing you needed to make a change. Was there, I know you mentioned like throwing the chairs and maybe someone's heckling you. Was there a
Yeah.
moment? Was there a
I,
moment where,
I actually I think my band I have to thank to actually, they, in a very subtle, non-judgmental, like in a way that was like, not pointing finger or even going, what the fuck? They were just,
Mm,
I think it was just in a conversation that we, maybe in the car. And it just really, I felt instantly like, wow, no one's ever said that to me. And I just kind of took heed of it. And I was like, note to self, like, that's really not good. And it could have been easily like, yeah, oh, all right, I'll behave myself. Don't worry, I
yeah,
just want to keep drinking because it's fun, like that little voice is always in your head.
yeah,
But I just really, it was a really sobering, like literally, metaphorically sobering moment. And I remember it was just in a car somewhere. I think it might have been my bass player Richie that just said something like, "Hey, you got really fired up or something, like." And it wasn't in a like it. It was like we were trying to have a bit of a laugh about it, but and I probably did go, yeah, haha, but then I just thought that's not good. And so I just, yeah, I started taking steps, and it was, the first few times, it thankfully wasn't really like didn't take years of like getting used to. I remember like the first few times were a bit scary. It was like, am I going to be okay? Am
yeah,
I going to? And then after I realized that how intoxicating music is just by itself, it really is. You know, I get high from what I do. So why would I want to mix it with something else? It's almost sacrilegious. I sound. Some people would go, oh, that sounds a bit like righteous or something. Like everyone's different.
mm,
But I just really think, man, if music is not intoxicating enough for you, then maybe you need to rethink and reframe some stuff, because it
yeah.
really is. It's such an incredible thing, music, the way it kind of can just, yeah, take over. And I know it's not the only thing. There's so many things that can elevate you and get you into that flow state. Sports people get there, people that are doing any, other creative mediums. It doesn't have to
Mm.
be just music. Even someone like making, doing woodwork, in their shed, like really getting hyper focused. That's a flow state.
Yeah, yeah,
Whatever that, happy place is that you have.
I agree.
It doesn't just happen to like performers on stage, and
Mm.
obviously. So
It's a great, I've experienced it a few times, whether it's like Z grade basketball or even sometimes this, I'll hear
yeah,
something I've said. I'm like, whoa, where did that come from? We're so
yeah,
positive, so in the moment. Read the nerves. I think a lot of people would be very surprised to hear you got nervous or you are still, oh, I don't think you are as much now, but you were a nervous performer. Was that about like you wanting everything to just go right? Was there a lot of pressure on you, or was that, what do you think that stemmed from?
yeah. I think the kind of the pressure of. I mean, I wasn't scared of sort of being in front of people or being on stage. I was like, and if anything, I'm like, just let me up there. But I think the kind of fear of like making mistakes, fear of like you know kind of embarrassing yourself, maybe. Yeah, I mean, I I'm not like I wouldn't say I'm an overconfident person, but when it comes to it, I yeah, I mean, there's something there's another part of me that just kind of kicks in and just wants to kill, as
Yeah.
well. I've got that kind of sort of like, okay, let's do it, that sort of that kind of kicks in. And
Is that a thing internally for you, or was it wanting to also please the audience?
yeah, both. I think it's I know that, you know, I like there's no kind of like going half measures, and it just doesn't work like that. So even when it's been a situation that's like, oh, this is a shit sandwich, you know, these people are awful. They're like they're just disrespectful. They don't give a rat's about me up here. You know, what I mean, I have had those situations. That's where you just dig in deeper. You know, you go, okay, I'm gonna even go deeper into what is just like, you know, because you know you're either on it or you're underneath it. If you don't get on it, you're going to be underneath it. So
It sounds like a stand-up comedian in a sense. I would have thought
yeah.
there'd be more buy-in because if people are seeing you now, they know who you are.
Oh yeah.
But
Look, I think I mean I'm going back to kind of
yeah, yeah,
yeah, like to some hopefully you know those days are like I wouldn't say over, but
yeah.
yeah, there was some. I mean, you know, I
Well, they
think
shape you.
I'm in a good place now because I'm doing the sort of venues that I'm doing. I'm kind of like I'm controlling the experiment to some degree myself. Like I want to go on this time of day, and this type of venue. Just those two factors alone controls so much.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, I think every performer at some stage has just been like, okay, yeah, I'll do that gig, and then you get there and go, what the hell have I just stepped
Yeah,
on?
we've had so
You know?
many.
I mean, it's just I mean, you haven't lived until you've done that.
Mm.
You know, makes you
But
appreciate the good.
I'm glad that you can look back at that. It's very interesting around a venue, so I assume it's quite similar to like a stand-up, and I'm sure you've
Yeah.
got examples of this. So many stand-ups, they might do a room where everyone's eating, or there's no proper like mic, or people are on their phones. All of these things
Oh
where
my
the
God.
venue's not set up or not designed in a
Yeah.
way to help you succeed.
I've done all
I
of those. I've
yeah.
done like next to the gaming, like where the noise of the gaming machines is so loud. Like, and the PA can only be so loud because there's a limit, and you're like, you know, and you ching 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 ching, you know, it's just like, okay, you know, and those are the nights where I have to drive away and go, well, you want to drive this nice car and, you know, like put your kids in nice schools. Well, you know, it's like, there's your reason, buddy. Shut the fuck up. You know, it's
And
like, I mean, everyone has things about their job that they just, you know, maybe don't like.
mm,
I'm lucky I don't have many at all. So, you know, like tell someone who cares, you know, it's like, I'm not about to start whinging. It's just like, it's like we all have to eat a shit sandwich here and there, you know?
yeah.
So,
It's important that it's very, I don't know anyone that enjoys all aspects of their job, and not
you
all the
know,
time you're going to be fully like sunshine and rainbows. And
well, you know, I mean, ultimately, I just want to give. You know, I think any performer would say this. It's just you want to give what the best you have in the best environment. So
mm,
so there's a nice exchange of like I give you, you give me, and everyone's happy. You know that's it. You know,
yeah,
it's kind of like you know, yeah. To do that, you need quality ingredients. It's a bit like cooking. You know,
yeah,
after a certain time and after a certain amount of alcohol consumption, those ingredients have kind of spoiled, gone off,
yeah,
and I'm trying to cook with them. No offense, public, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, you're a lot better at 7:30 or 8 o'clock at night than you are at 11:30 at night after seven drinks or whatever.
That's why you picked that time. Okay, that makes
Oh
sense.
yeah, hell yeah! Like
Yeah,
someone said, well, whoever it was that said nothing good happens after 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock or whatever
they
it
weren't wrong. Yeah.
is.
And you alluded to this before about like semi beating yourself up if you make mistakes. A lot of, I'm always going back to the stand-up comedians. A lot of, stand-up comedians or performers, they often make mistakes, but they're able to present in a way where people don't realize, or if they do, people aren't actually as hard on them as they are themselves. Is that what's been the relationship then now?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's I think I think with an artist like myself, it's playing those songs. It's like with a stand-up comedian, they just want to laugh, and
Yeah.
and I know they've got to try new material out, and I've got to try new material out. It's like you can't just keep doing the same jokes, and I can't just keep playing the same songs, but I do.
Yeah.
But in between, I grow, and I'm, just like stand-ups, repertoire grows, I'm sure. And it's about reading the room. And I think like in the last few years, I've really taken a few pages out of the stand-up thing where I talk to them very early on. I get a few laughs. I'm
Oh,
no
cool.
stand-up comedian, but I find that really breaks the ice.
Yeah,
If
that's
I just
awesome.
if I just get up there and play, it's like, oh great, wow, he's an amazing musician, blah blah blah. But who is he? Like if I talk very early on, I can almost hear the surprise in the room still to this day, because a lot of people they know me through their medium, that whatever it is, through their streaming, through videos they've seen, TV, radio, whatever. But this is maybe the first time they've actually heard me talk, and just the personality is coming out.
Yeah.
That's crazy as that sounds.
Mm.
I still, in my mind, I have to act like they're meeting me for the first time, because sometimes they are.
Yeah.
And like going into anyone's house, you can't just go in there and without
Yeah.
acknowledging them, and we're in each other's houses. It's my house, it's their house. And so I generally play one song and then I talk. And John Farnham was or is a master at this. He, like, if you ain't been to a John Farnham gig, he talks quite a bit. I mean, he obviously sang a lot too, incredibly fucking sang.
Mm.
But yeah, he's always been known to like really warm the crowd up with anecdotes and talking. And I think it's really important to just acknowledge that, hey, we're all here. It's as simple as that. And so they don't start going like, us and them sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because like I said, 5 minutes ago, it's like if you don't get on that bus, they will run you over in a
That's
maybe it's subtle, but they will still run you over. And if you're scared of them, they sense that too.
interesting.
They
It's
really do.
and
It's like one organism, even though there's like, you know,
what's the unity?
hundreds of different intellects. Somehow that all comes together as one, hungry beast.
It's a very interesting way of seeing it, and also very smart of you to incorporate that into your shows. Was that just
Yeah.
something? What made you
I,
think of that?
I think it was kind of like probably a nervous mechanism. It's just like, what do I do? What do I do? Just talk. You're good at that. Um, Talk like you do to your family and friends, and that's kind of like how I treat them. And I talk to them about you know things that are just probably they'd never thought they'd ever hear too. Like, do you know about worms? Like you know, I give them some useless information. Sometimes I go on these really like random tangents, but they get a feel of who I am, you know, and they walk away like going, okay, I think I know who he is a bit now, like,
Yeah,
because what they've seen or what their preconceptions is usually wrong, let's face it, with anyone, with any
yeah,
performer.
definitely.
So,
Interesting. And so now it obviously happens way less, but no show's perfect. What's your chitter chatter after a show where it hasn't gone 100% to your liking?
usually, I mean, thankfully, it's pretty consistent because I've just been working and working on my setup and everything, but things can still happen. Just does wear and tear, or something takes a knock in the course of getting thrown on an airplane. And those things are just, mid gig, when something just like, dies on you and you go, oh, okay. The thing I hate the most is like when I go to play guitar and no sound comes out. It's really embarrassing still to me to this day,
Oh, really? Do you think
because it's just
people
like,
care though?
I think I always feel like, to me, it's just like it's like a knife in the
Okay.
gut. It's just kind of like, oh, like, because I've got them to come out of their homes, put their money down, buy a ticket, come out of their homes, come into the venue, and then I'm up there and my shit dies. It's just like, it's just not cool. You know, I feel really embarrassed. It's like, but you know, I have to just like go, oh, look, you know, blah, blah, blah. I usually blame Qantas.
It works.
Like, oh, Qantas, and everyone laughs. And then I'll grab another guitar, and you know, thankfully I've got a couple. And if it's just the guitar, I just grab another one and change what I was about to do, because I've got all these different guitars and different tunings. So change tact, and then I'll say like, well, this is why I've got 7 guitars with me, you know.
Yeah. So
And laugh.
you're great on the fly.
But it's just like a pit stop change, you know, for a racing driver or something. You just got to deal with it.
Mm.
But it's still like, I always feel like what I do is kind of like a magic trick, and always like, you know, keeping a ping pong ball buoyant, you know, like with air, like the ping pong ball floating.
Yeah.
And then, oh, boom, the ping pong ball drops on the ground, you know, the minute something goes wrong. That's always a bit of a kind of like, oh, damn, you know, the illusion's just been shattered.
Yeah.
which is which is this, you know, silly notion, but I am trying to create, you know, something that's hyper real and magic. That's my goal.
Mm. With the that it still is the magic, you know, nothing to be 100% still going, you know,
Yeah.
having that show and doing all of that. But it sounds like you've like, especially going sober performing was
You don't catastrophize as much. Yeah.
oh, interesting.
Yeah. That's the thing, that when you're drunk, my mind would just catastrophize. It would, you know, so I'd suddenly go from like, kind of like, woo, to, you know.
Yeah. You'd be a much better and more confident performer being able to go with the fly and when things don't go to plan, which we've established is, you know,
Yeah.
can happen. That's
Totally.
great though.
I mean, if you've ever had, you know, like if you've ever been drunk or intoxicated in some way in some crisis, it's weird. You kind of sober up really quickly, but you're still
Yeah.
kind of pretty munted.
Yeah, yeah. I love that word.
Yeah.
How do you go? Because you've done, I don't even know how many albums at this stage. And obviously you get way more positive feedback than negative feedback. How do you respond to potential negative feedback at this stage in your career? Have you always been like that?
Look, I think now it's just like kind of like I'm sure that, I mean, there's always going to be someone saying something. It's either like, you know, ageist or sexist or this or that, or, you know,
Really?
some, you know, loaded comment, or, you know, you can read between the lines, but I just I don't really, it's like, well, that's one person. They're entitled to an opinion, you know, that's how I've looked at it in the past.
Oh, cool.
And I just, yeah, I try not to like get mortally wounded, but it does hurt sometimes. Sometimes when you read something, you go, oh man, that's really, wow, you know, like, ouch, you know?
Yeah.
And then you think, oh, okay, you know, or, you know, the whole stars thing that always, like the Rolling Stones
Yeah.
review, it's like that got that many stars and that got only that many. It's like, okay, you know,
Yeah.
such a weird concept of like,
I agree.
even like a half a star or something. It's like, it just seems so like half-assed.
Well,
But
yeah.
you know, look, I know it's like you can't do stuff and make stuff, and then, you know, you've got to be able to take the arrows, you know, you just have to. It's like, you can't, yeah, living, you know, what is it saying, glass houses or something.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, it's just, you know, it's one person. And I think it's funny now, like the journalism that I'm reading now is, it's like, it's almost like, some people would say, oh damn, I really miss that salty journalism of like the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially like these magazines behind me, maybe not so much, but like New Musical Express, like the English one, that just like rip bands to pieces or artists and then put others on pedestals, you know. You just don't see that as much as that now. A lot of it's being written by bots to start with.
Yes.
And, you know, I'm kind of like, I'm at the point now where it's just like, I think most journalists would just go, oh, he's still alive? Oh, cool. Well, you know, he's still making records, you know. Oh, good on him. Oh, yeah, I'll give him a slap on the back, you know.
Yeah. Did you? Because I always found this so strange. You know how they can like one band and then hate you for probably something within themselves that they're saying. Like these things aren't
Yeah.
very consistent. Did any ever like sting you? You saw one and you're like, whoa, that's that
A
one.
review.
Mm.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I think when I was in my 20s, those things were like, I mean, all of that press had so much more um, kind of gravity to it, and it was just omnipresent. Like it was everywhere you looked. You know, walk into a place, there they are, there they are. You know, it was kind of, and so if you got a stinky review, it would just hang around like a bad smell for a while. You know, and you know. I don't know. It just seems to be a kind of a thing of the past now. But hey, maybe you'll bring it back for my next record.
Oh, fingers crossed. Yeah, I've never
But
heard that.
you know, I mean, I used to read things about other artists and just think, well, that makes me feel a bit better. They just got like absolutely torn to shreds, you
Yeah,
know, and that's a good record, you know. So I would think, you know, it's all subjective. So you
I
know,
agree.
but I just don't. I'm not sure the constructive nature of that. I mean, I think if you make a really bad record, I don't know if there really is. You see, it's like it's a bit like that film. Oh, I can't remember the name of it, but this um, like this Polish guy. I think he was Polish. He goes to LA and he makes this terrible film,
Oh,
and they
the
made a film about
disaster artist? Is that what it's called?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And who played? Is it James Franco? Maybe
Yeah,
played.
yeah.
And you know, like at when they finally air the film, it's actually really sad, and everyone starts pissing themselves laughing, and then they realize it's like, you know, it's a hit or something. It's going to be a hit because it's so bad.
Mm.
I can't. I probably got the whole storyline
No,
wrong.
no, no, that's
That's
fine.
fine,
Yeah.
but it's just like, yeah, like it's all subjective at the end of the day, and you know, you know, I've never been. I mean, there are a few songs that hurt my feelings. I'm not going to lie. When I hear them, like I'll go, oof. Um, you know, like like I was flipping through Sirius. Oh no, so it's called iHeart here, but same thing in
Yep.
America. It's called Sirius. And I was like, let's go on 80s new wave. See what they think new wave is. And we got we got one Cure song. I thought that's promising. Like, I hope it's more of this. And then they played that song "Rock Me Amadeus" by whoever that was, and I just thought, this is awful. This is an awful song. And I remember it being a massive. I actually remember Molly Meldrum going, "This is the massive thing around the world. It's number one, blah blah blah," and it was just awful, like just an awful pop song. But you know, awful to. I just yeah, I don't say that word a lot, but I was trying to find something in it that I liked. Even like the Human League came on after that with uh, "You're My Obsession." And it's not one of the Human League's better songs, in my humble opinion, but I was listening to them and was like, oh, the bass is cool. They laid some like slap bass over the top of the synth bass, and it was like, okay, that's cool. You know, I always try to find something, no matter if people just write a song up, I go, hang on, let me have a listen to it. Oh,
Yeah.
no, it's cool. I like that. You know, there's always something to be had. You know, that's my kind of attitude towards music. Because I mean, growing up, my parents and my siblings were real music, like they consumed a lot of music, but I don't remember anyone being super critiquey in my house going, that's not
Oh,
good.
that's
It was
great.
just like it was really, yeah, very kind of, you know, just non-judgmental. And so I kind of grew up with a non-judgmental ear. And it wasn't until I started being around maybe some peers, like teenage years, and then reading reviews and that whole kind of thing of like, oh, people judge music. I was like really naive to that because I
Mm.
just listened to anything. Like I would literally just listen to whatever it was in the car. You know, my dad, and when we lived in Arizona, we got into listening to the local salsa, which was, you know, the first time I'd ever heard like Latino kind of stations playing nothing but, you know, Tito Puente and Ray Barretta and all the you know, really great um, Latin inspired stuff that you're just not going to hear unless you're, in an area where there are lots of Hispanic people, I guess. So that was, that turned my ear to that. And
Cool.
I never really kind of like thought there was bad music. It was just music,
What do you think of the new pop songs now?
Oh, I love the hyperpop scene. I mean, I've got my, I think since the Sophie album, I've been sort of like, um, kind of a fan of that genre. Maybe more than like, kind of like straight up like the EDM sort of stuff that you hear. Like that's just like kind of, you know, I mean, I don't know if you could call it top 40 anymore, but the real mainstream pop. But I mean, I think Charlie XCX is um, still not still hasn't peaked. This is my belief. I think she's still like rising, which is
Interesting.
hard to imagine.
Mm.
And I just imagine like yeah, like the Brad album. I think is probably the one of the greatest pop albums that's come out in the last decade.
Oh, wow.
Um, there's other ones, but I think just that the kind of yeah, like with the first time I heard it, I thought, okay, everything that she's been kind of working on, it seems to all kind of really crystallized here.
Yeah.
Not like not in a way of like, oh, what's going to happen after this? I think it's just starting to really. That's what I mean about she hasn't even peaked yet. It's just I really believe like,
You should collaborate together.
oh, I wish that'd be a dream.
How
Um,
does that work? Like I don't know if you know him, but he must live in a similar area to you. And I think he's a fantastic musician. He's also been on the podcast, Ilan Kidron, and
yeah.
he collaborated with like Ricky Martin and so many other people. How do you go about that? Or does your agent just go, they want to work with
Oh,
you?
look, I mean, these days it's kind of like it's just so random. I mean, um, and but random by nature, I think with files, the way they get flung around, like, um, well, because my daughter is an artist, and she, for instance, she's worked with this producer Benny X.
Ah, yeah.
He's got a bunch of my guitar tracks that he still files through, and you
Cool.
know, I heard the other day that he did one, and like this is like um probably never going to see the light of day, but Bad Bunny has done something over one of my guitar tracks, which is
That's
like
epic.
blew my mind. It was just like, okay, and that's the world we live in. I mean, whether things come out or not, but people like are just getting files and sharing around, and it's an exciting time. I think it's not so much like you have to be in that studio, like with that artist, and then and then you
Yeah.
go over there, and it's just like you can be all over the world.
Yeah.
And
Amazing.
thanks to like digital files, just that that is something that we did not have like 30 years ago.
Mm. And oh, I've got so many questions on that because you've mentioned this before with collaborating. Sometimes it can be, when you first may be collaborating with someone, that it can be, I forget what your word was, that it can be quite scary. I think you've said, um, because someone might not be confident in their voice, or they might not know, they might take advice at 100% face value. How have you been able to navigate the collaborating space to make true to yourself?
Yeah, I mean, when I have people, I remember what it was like when I started kind of working with co-writing, and kind of the whole feeling of like, super self-conscious and just like, but again, there's got to be that sort of something in that's sort of like you want to, show this person it's like what you've got as well. It's like,
Mm.
you know, what you're capable of doing. You got to be a little bit of a show off somewhere amongst all that, but it's natural to kind of feel like, oh,
Yeah.
God, it's just, bearing my soul, and I don't even know this person, and it's kind of, but then you just think, um, what's the worst thing that could happen, sort of thing. But I totally understand some people don't feel comfortable doing that at all. There are some artists that just go, no, collaborating is not for me. I don't like co-writing, you know, they just don't. And you know, it's a very personal thing, and they don't want to, they don't want to like, maybe whatever reasons. You can only speculate and guess why they don't want to do it, but you have to respect that. But
Yeah.
maybe it's a kind of, they want to keep their thing really pure. Maybe I don't know, because you do, you kind of adulterate your the bake, the cook, whatever it is,
Yeah.
um, by letting other people kind of put their ingredients into your pot.
Yeah.
But for me, it's been that, well, okay, well, I came up with that bit. I remember that, but damn, that I wouldn't have come up with that. That's something I wouldn't have thought of. So you're bringing those things in, and that's what
Making it better.
collaborating. That's what
Yeah.
collaborating ultimately is. It's just everyone's strengths coming together and getting that POV that you just would not have thought of from someone else. And yeah, I mean, I was talking to Angus Gill, who's um, living in Nashville now, and he's an incredible young artist, and he's won like a box of golden guitars now. Like
Whoa.
he's well on his way of like, but he's working on some really cool projects, and he's just talking about the whole Nashville thing and how 3, 4, 5, 6 writers all in a room is not unusual. And he's just like, I don't like it. He goes,
Whoa.
I
Yeah.
prefer like 2. He goes, two's good. And he was giving me all the reasons, and I totally get it. It's but it is very formulaic in some circles, and not just in Nashville, but maybe in Stockholm as well. But wherever they have like factories where they're just pumping out, so-called hits, that is a formulaic thing of just like getting a whole pile of people in. It's like a think tank.
Oh,
Um,
that's an interesting way of kind of breaking down the creativity as well.
yeah, like I don't think I've ever written with more than 3 people, and but I think he's had enough experience now that he's just like gone, I'm just going to do what I like. I know I don't enjoy that, so I'm just going to do this. And so yeah, that he's found what works for him.
That's a
But
I know you're going.
I think if you're just a songwriter and you're just trying to get songs cut and you're not really an artist, like you'll do those rights with 5 people because you just want to have a piece of something. I get it. So yeah, but when people come and work with me, I just try to like listen to them more than anything. Like listen to what it's like, well, what do you want? What do you
Nice.
want to happen today? Because I've had a few situations where I've gone into a room and people just go, "This is what we're gonna do," and you just go, "Okay," and they just drive the whole thing, and you leave there and it's just like, okay, we've got something, but I don't think I have any affinity with this. Maybe give it to someone else. And that's always a question that needs to be asked early on. It's like, are you looking for something for yourself? Do you want to do you want to just write a song and we'll pitch it to blah blah blah? Like, what do you want to?
Setting
And
the intention
yeah,
beforehand.
most of the time they're like, well, I'd really like a song for blah 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 blah, and I've got this little idea, but they're reluctant to like come in and just you know knock on that door. You have to invite them. You know,
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah, especially with like when they're like just starting. And I get a lot of really young writers in here that are very they're just like they've only had a couple of experiences, so they're just kind of wading through the water. So you really want to like just make sure, like even down to like if I'm playing the guitar and we come up with some kind of motif and they play a little bit of guitar, but they know they're like, I'm not as good as you. It's like, it doesn't matter. Here, you play. And then I'll cook up a sound for them, I'll with the pedals and stuff and give them a few tips. And then, and next thing you know, they're like, oh, I can do it. It's like, yeah, like, I can do it. Yes, I'll probably do it a little quicker, but I want you to be invested in this.
That's
You
so
know?
good, the buy-in.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I know what that is for me. When you have something that you've actually had, a part of, you're instantly more invested in it.
Mm.
And it's not about perfection. Most of the time it's not. It's about vibe. I mean, sure. And then, that's where my editing skills can come in handy too, because they'll give me like, a bunch of stuff, and it's like, well, that's gone off the rails there, but I'll take that bit and I'll chop that and I'll chop this and I'll make something and it'll sound really, really fucking cool, you know? And it's just like, that's what we can do, you know? It's a studio. You can create magic in here, you know? There's no rules.
I love your passion, and you know, talking from the collaboration side, you've been on both sides. You know, you've worked with bands, and then you've gone solo. What was the moment like when you leave Johnny Diesel and the Injectors and going solo? And
Well, that was a ride, and it was like a party, you know, almost, that just sort of kind of came to an end, you know, as things do. It took its course. We made the album. We toured it relentlessly 3 times around the world.
oh wow, I didn't know it was that many.
Yeah, and well, some parts 3, sometimes 2. I mean, you know, yeah, we really, you know, did. I can't imagine us doing much more on besides going to another planet, interplanetary.
Yeah,
We really, yeah, made the most of a successful album, and successful it really was. It was the highest selling album by a debut artist, an Australian debut at that time of all time. It was like,
that's
you know,
crazy.
5 times platinum or something. It was just, you know, it went way beyond our. We had no idea. We had absolutely no idea. And then I just started feeling very, just kind of, I don't know how to put it into words, but as we started making demos for the next record, I maybe was worried, concerned. I don't know what the word is, but I was like, I'm not feeling this. I'm just not, like, maybe, you know, because we'd already gone into the studio and done that album, and I couldn't visualize doing that again. And to me, visualization is a big part of it. And I didn't have that. What I was starting to visualize was lots of different things that, like, the band didn't do, you know, sounds that the band didn't make, you know, drum patterns, and, you know, just, you know, strings and horns and all kinds of things. And it was like, I couldn't imagine, like, okay, guys, well, I'm going to start doing this now. And I might have gotten away with it. Who knows? But it just didn't seem fair to make them, like, kind of like rip their skin off and change their spots, you know, like,
Yeah,
you know, so that we were really good at that. Like, we were really, really good. We had a sound. God, you know, like, watching videos from that time on stage, live stuff, it's like, wow, you know, we really kicked ass. It was great, you know.
nice.
But it was kind of like one of those, I didn't have a vision for the second album, and it was almost like, oops, sorry, I didn't think about what was going to happen after one album. Oops, sorry, everyone. I don't have a long game here, you know. It's like, just one, you know, and that was that. And I think if I would have made a record after that and absolutely fallen on my ass, and it was just like, you know, not a very good record. And I'm not saying that record was perfect by any means. It was actually a miracle, um, to me, that it was as cohesive as it was, because it was made in bits and pieces in different towns and different producers, and it was a real, like, I changed management through it. It was a real upheaval and pushed shit uphill, as they say. But I got there.
That's
And
absolutely crazy.
yeah, I mean, maybe that was, you know, part of what made it good, but it was still, like, wasn't just like, you know, hot knife through butter, as they say. um, but my vision was strong, and I have to say, like, what I wanted the record to sound like was strong. That funk rock thing that was happening, the Chili Peppers, that album came out as we're mixing it, and I was like, yeah, you know, this is like good times, you know. Blood sugar sex magic. You know, the beginning of the 90s was, to a large degree, there was a lot of, like, looking back at the 60s and 70s, like, you know, the whole grunge thing was like taking bits out of, well, yeah, they were from Seattle, and the guitar player wore, like, the whole Hendrix thing on his sleeve. There was all this, it was kind of like feasting on the decades prior to that, and just like getting that spandex and hairsprayed sort of pointy guitar thing, and, like, putting that on the shelf for a while. I don't want to say flush down the toilet, but it was just like, enough. enough of that. Let's get back to kind of more kind of rootsy music.
Mm.
And yeah, the early 90s were like, you know, there were so many great bands like Fishbone. Of course, the Chili Peppers, needless to say, but it was kind of like, it was a great time for sort of like funk rock.
Yeah.
And I definitely got the funk element on Fidelity that I wanted to achieve. You know, having Bernie Worrell come and play keyboards from P Funk was, you know, like that was, I I pretty much said, hey, do you reckon we could get Bernie to come and play? And the A&R was like, yeah, let me call him up. And it was like, boom. Next thing you know, he's arriving with his clavinet.
That's cool.
Needed some repairs, but like, and then he was like, what pedals do you have? And I'm like, well, I got this. And he was just like, just used all my pedals. It was just like, I was in heaven. I was like,
That's
I've got Bernie Worrell playing his clav through my pedals. I was in heaven.
I don't think you realize how crazy in the most positive way. Most people, when they achieve success, they want to hold on to it. Or, maybe there can be people pleasing tendencies where we don't want to, maybe offend anyone or deal with conflict. But there was obviously that strong knowing within you where you're like, this is not my vision.
Yeah. It's funny, like the success thing. I mean, no one's put me aside and said, hey, now, if you just make this record, you know it's going to sell, blah, 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 blah. And then you can like do whatever you want after that. Maybe if someone would have put it to me like that, I might have like gone, okay, like,
Mm.
but no one, thankfully, no one like scared me either, or like came in and said, like, do you really want to do this? Like, you're going to like, you've just had this massive successful album and you're just going to like blow it all up. My management at the time, were like, they were like, okay.
Oh,
It was
wow.
like they literally just went, okay. That was it. They had nothing more to say than let's do this. And I said, well, okay, I'm gonna keep Yak. He was the drummer in the band. He wants to come and play on these sessions, and I think he's be perfect because he can kind of play anything. So I kept that component, and that was nice because it was like one bit piece of familiarity as well.
Yeah.
And a really good piece. And it was just one of those, like, I knew that I wanted to go and explore the woods and, babe in Toyland, kid in a candy store, all of those, those cliches. I was that. I just wanted to like experience all these sounds that I've been hearing. And Het Fidelity is me just going crazy, just going, I'll have some of that, I'll have some of that. Give me some of that too, yeah. And like the first part of it, I worked with Terry Manning, and it was great. We were one on one, and he was great at just like, it was just very slow, but he could fulfill my dreams of like, okay, well let's go to Branson, Missouri, hop in his little plane because he got his pilot's license. We'll use Al Green's backing singers. Fantastic. All right, Memphis Horns. They're going to come back soon. They're actually touring in Australia with Robert Cray, but we'll get them. And we've got Memphis Horns come in, and it's just like, oh, there's that sound. There's the sound that I heard on all the on the Otis records to start with.
Oh, that's awesome.
And they've got that thing that is just like you can get a saxophone and a trumpet player, sure. You can get really, the best saxophone and trumpet player, but they're not going to sound like the Memphis Horns. They just don't. They really had a signature sound. These two gentlemen. It's bizarre how they can kind of come like to get there was this rub that they had. It's a kind of a tuning thing. I have to say a lot of it's the little bit of out of tuneness in a good way.
Yeah.
And just their phrasing and their where they hang back. It's the South, so it's hot. And so they're never like really on top. They're always a little bit back because the weather just makes people like that. And they smoked a lot of cigarettes. It's like there's like I've never seen like two people sit on chairs while they're doing the horns and like just have an ashtray. It was like before they came, Terry was like, okay, Wayne and Andrew are coming over soon. I'll just have to set the chairs up. And I'm like, Jesus, are they that old? He goes, no, they just like to sit. I'm like, okay. And then he put a table in the middle with a big ashtray. And I thought, okay,
Now you get
I
it.
got a feeling that ashtray is going to be full by the time they left. And it was.
Yeah.
And yeah, the funniest thing was like when I asked him to play baritone, and he was like, oh, I don't have one. And then Terry was like, I do. Baritone requires a lot more air,
Yeah.
and a lot more control of like, you got to really like, and then just like let it out, not too much because it'll go, you know. The baritone's a tricky instrument to play. A lot of plumbing, but what an amazing sound. So yeah, we got him to lay some baritone, kicking and screaming, but yeah. Um, but that
That's
was,
cool.
yeah, that was a great part of that. And then when I went out to LA to finish it with Don Gaiman, we worked with this guy Phil Chanel, and part of the each track was like, um, once we decided we're going to record the song, I would start with this kind of texturalist. I guess what we would call him, a producer. Yeah. So his name was Phil Chanel, and he had his own little studio. And I'd go over there, and I would say, I want like a loop that goes, and I'd sort of, he'd be like, okay, I think I've got a loop like, yeah, that loop sounds good. Okay. And then I want some like in Man Alive, I said, I wanted the sound of marching.
Mm.
And then he made the joke. He was like, okay, German or French troops? French, please. um, but yeah, I just wanted all these like ear candy things that like sit in the track that you don't even know are there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that. And then he'd bring the tape, because we were still working on tape then. He would bring the tape over in the afternoon and be like, oh, okay, let's hear what you got. And then there was this bed of stuff. And then we'd play on top of that. And it was just so exciting. It was so exciting to kind of hear like all my little like crazy ideas come to life. Like, the oboes and the cellos and things that you hear on tip of my tongue and the piano motif and all that. That's all stuff that I sang to him or played on the keyboard, and he'd be like, okay, yep, no worries. And, in the world of samples, it's incredible what someone has a great sample library. You can just do, on pretty much almost anything.
Oh, I had no
So
idea.
that was a really fun thing for me that I'd never experienced before. Like, because, the first record was not in a bad way, but it was literally just four people in a studio, you know, like playing their instruments, and that was it. A couple of overdubs, and I'm really glad that our first record came out sounding a little rough and ready. I guess I would say, people love the way that record sound. Most people come up to me, they go, "Oh, I love that record," and that's great. But to me, it sounds almost it's a little undercooked, in some ways.
Yeah,
Um,
interesting.
but that's only because I was so naive, and it was my first experience in the studio.
And you got
I,
success like
I
that
think
so
I
quick.
think I'd rather have an undercooked record than an overcooked record as my first record.
Yeah.
It's nothing worse than overproducing. Like,
Yeah.
nothing worse. Like, just putting all this stuff on it that it just doesn't need.
Agreed.
Trying to like put a lipstick on a pig sort of thing.
That's an interesting analogy. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that there would have been potentially moments of doubt. Have I made the right decision? Even though you're having so much fun and you're learning and meeting amazing people. What was that moment like when I think you said you went multi-platinum, going solo, and you won ARIA Awards for Best Album and Best Male Artist? Was that like, oh, okay, like I made the right decision, I'm okay, everything's gonna be
Yeah,
okay?
it did feel a bit like, okay. It was a relief.
Mm,
It was a relief. I have to say, it was kind of like, oh God, thank God, um, because I think there was a lot of people waiting, like with knives, to just kind of go like, well, what's going to happen now, like, and it just was like, okay, well, doesn't sound anything like, well, a little bit, but it didn't sound like a carbon copy of the first record, just without the band. What's the point,
yeah, yeah.
That would have been silly, it would have been, and probably still ultimately sold a few copies and everything, but I showed that there was a reason why I wanted to go solo. I was destined to be a solo artist. I really was. I feel it was just, yeah, um, it was a nice experience. That's all I can say. It was an experience that I don't have any regrets,
Cool.
and that band was a great vehicle for me to get going. To get my career started, and I'm ultimately, beyond words. I can't even put it into words how thankful I am that it happened, and how durable everybody and all, the work that we all put in, you know, sleeping in a freaking Winnebago across America with that only had 6 beds and there's 9 people, do the maths on that.
Oh, oh.
All of that stuff that we did, we all we had to eat some shit, we really did. We got to eat, we got to like eat oysters too, but we ate shit as well. So, it was a good experience. And yeah, I think that, the whole thing of just like flogging something just for money, it just didn't even enter my mind. I knew that I had to, for my musical sanity, I had to move on. That's all I knew I had to do.
You're a purist. How are you feeling for your upcoming tour? You've got a massive tour coming up. That's very exciting.
I try not to think about how massive it is, but yeah, one day at a time, as they say.
Yep.
Look, yeah, I mean, touring is something that I've definitely gotten better at. In some aspects of it, I can kind of manage the challenges of it better than I used to. But it is what it is, That time on stage there's no running or kind of ducking or making it less what it is. It is like incredibly intense, and it requires this much energy. And with when you spend, you have to replenish. It's just like you're not a machine. Like, well, you are, but God, that's the challenging bit, I think. But I kind of know that deficit better than I used to. Like, I'd come off the back of maybe 3 shows in a row and go, "What the hell is wrong with me?"
Is that like
Um,
the down of like you've just performed and now?
yeah, the deficit of like the dopamine that you're getting, and all of those, you know, chemicals that come into your brain when you're in that state,
Yeah.
and then when you stop, you kind of like just it's not just a tired feeling. It's like this, like really depleted feeling.
Yeah.
And then you come back again, you come good again. Um, after a few days. But
Sorry for interjecting. I've had
yeah,
a few musicians talk about or like the come down, whatever you want to call it, of a tour and how mentally it can be quite tough. What are some of like the skills that you've now incorporate to kind of help with that, or is it just more awareness?
yeah, self-care, I think, like getting into nature, that's always a really good thing.
Mm,
And there's nothing kind of can compare with getting in like getting in the ocean. I just love that they're getting those negative ions or whatever it is that you get when you get into salt water. It's pretty
yeah.
amazing stuff. But just, yeah, just getting away from, um, I mean, it's funny, like I would have never thought I would, when I come back, after traveling on, and it's been like gig, then travel, come home. And, the last thing I would think of doing is like putting my running shoes on and going running. But that's kind of how I come down. I kind of, it's almost like you do the thing that you least feel like doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like crazy as it sounds, but that's always going to serve me better than, you know, not that I would these days, but like, I know a lot of other musicians probably like just go, I'm just going to sit and drink these 2 bottles of wine and just come down. It's like, that might be
Yeah.
good, but I don't think you're going to feel too great after it.
No. And the tour, I believe it starts at the start of Jan. Am I getting that right?
Enter Jan.
End of Jan.
Yeah.
I'll put it in the episode
In
note.
Tassie.
Say that again.
Tots and Taz.
Nice. I'll put that in the episode notes below so people can check out all the places that you're touring. Cool. I reckon what we'll do to wrap up the podcast is to do a rapid fire segment. I'm not going to comment on them because I'll derail them.
Yeah.
Ready to rumble?
Yeah, yeah.
What's been your special ingredient to work all these years?
Special ingredient to work.
Yep.
Um, Support from my family and yeah, and friends, I'd say.
Do you have a philosophy on life you follow?
Philosophy on life. Just don't yeah, to be good to everybody. That's kind of, yeah. It's a lot easier to be nice than not nice. That's what I always say. It's just easier.
Agreed. Who are some of your biggest inspirations or role models?
Oh, my wife, she is always inspiring to me, and my kids are really inspiring to me, I have to say.
That's a great.
Immediately, like just they've said things to me a few times that have made me just my jaw drop.
That's so awesome. If you could have any superhero power in the world, what would it be and why?
Um, I think to be able to just go up 60 meters in the air and just like look back down at a situation. This is what I like to say to people when I even need to remind myself sometimes. It's like whatever it is, just go up 60 meters or 60 feet and just look back down, and you'll see it's like it's not that big a deal.
Yep.
So just down here on the ground, things can get like really out of
Yeah, that outside
proportion.
perspective.
Yeah.
How has your definition of success changed over the years?
Well, success is something that no one ever said to me that it's actually something you have to survive. Because success would lead you to believe it. It's like it's everything good and everything that is going to make your life happy and everything. But it kind of is. Yes, it is brings some good stuff, but it also is something you have to survive. And no one told me that. So that's would be my advice for anyone like who's about to like become have experienced success, think more than they've ever experienced. It's just like, by the way, it's something you're gonna have to survive it as well. And yeah, because it can really mess with your head. I can tell you that.
And what has helped to clear your mind with that?
I think reflecting and my mum always used to say to me when I was like, pre-teen, early teen, before I left the house, she'd say, make sure, and then she would remind me later when I became, a professional musician or what, like living the life that I did. She'd be like, always make sure you've, got time to reflect. And I'm like, what does that mean, Mum? And it just means like, like take stock, go and yeah, like if it means whatever it is for me, I love to run. So part of my, running thing is like, I don't wear earbuds. I used to because, it was fun and everything. And then I nearly got taken out by a car and that was the end of that. And I realized
Oh
I
shit.
needed all my senses, eyes, ears. And I guess leaning into that internal dialogue is, it's not what a lot of people want to do. I think we tend to like distract ourselves with whatever we can distract ourselves with. But
Mm.
that internal dialogue, someone would say that's meditation, whatever you want to call it. That's where you're gonna, sort your desk out. I call it cleaning my desk.
Yeah.
Just like arranging things, put that in the bin. That's of no use. A lot of the songwriting that I do is actually done away from the studio. It's when I'm out doing anything but playing a guitar and hitting buttons in the studio. And that's the kind of stuff that is really important. And I think if your life is getting so like my nephew said the other day, I said, we were talking about airplanes and sitting on the plane, and he was like, I don't know what I said. I said, watch this or listen to this up. And he was like, no. So actually, Uncle Mark, I like to just like listen to my own brain when I'm sitting on a plane. I'm like, cool. Yeah.
Wow.
Someone would say, oh, that's raw dogging. You're just raw dogging it. How can you do that? It's like,
Yeah.
but I get it. Like, this just being in your own space and just, yeah. But maybe with a pair of noise canceling headphones anyway, just so you don't have to hear the screaming jets.
That's true. That's a brilliant way to end the podcast. Before we go, how can people follow you and keep up to date with you?
Always the website dieselmusic.com.au, because that's kind of the page where if it's the homepage you land on, and from there, yeah, tickets, merch, everything, is from there.
Cool. I'll put that in the episode notes. Thanks so much. I
Thank
appreciate
you, Michael.
you're very uplifting and empowering, and I really appreciate this chat.
Thanks for having me.